Hello, Barbara Nixon here, and welcome to another episode of Lessons from Leaders. Now, today I am really excited to be introducing Kimmay Caldwell. Now, Kimmay is a self-love coach and undergarment educator who supports people to say hooray inside, outside, and underneath. She's an expert bra fitter with over 14 years of experience of getting intimate with people from cup sizes A to N. She's based in New York City, but she travels around the world to spread her empowering message of self-love and how to use the everyday ritual of putting on a bra to uncover your confidence, stand in your power, and learn to love yourself. Now, you might have seen her in one of over 100 press outlets, including the Martha Stewart Show, the Today Show, the Rachel Ray Show, and more. Now, she regularly teaches and speaks, including bra fitting workshops at the largest lingerie expert in the world in Paris, Breast, the Gateway to the Heart workshops, a monthly New Moon Women's Circle, and panels in inclusiveness and intimate apparel. She's also the creator of the More Than My Numbers project, helping people love their bodies by using numbers as information, not a definition. And you can connect with Kimmay at Hooray Kimmay, and always find her at www.hooraykimmay.com, and we'll put that link underneath this video as well. Now, I love chatting to Kimmay, so you're going to get loads out of this conversation. So let's dive in. Hi, Kimmay. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing? You all right?
My pleasure. Yes, it is Tuesday. I am excited to be here. Happy to talk with you.
Oh, so pleased. I'm happy to talk to you too. So let's kick off with tell us a bit more about your journey. You know, tell us what you do and how you got to where you are today.
Great. How long is this podcast? No, I'm kidding. So I've been in the intimate apparel business for 14 years. I started as a bra fitter in New York City in the Soho neighborhood. When I was 19, I was like about to turn 20 a week later. And the sort of genesis of what I'm doing now started in that fitting room, fitting people for bras, because I was going to school for musical theater at the time. And I just needed money, honestly. And I ended up having a really life-changing experience in that room, because it was all about how I looked as a musical theater person. And I didn't like the way I looked. I was comparing my very able, healthy, young body to things I was seeing in magazines and like perfectly airbrushed images. And I didn't know that that wasn't what real bodies looked like. And so when I saw real human bodies for like a full week in that bra fitting store, and I mean every kind of body you can imagine. So, people after they gave birth and had kids, people when they were pregnant, people after surgery and cancer, older women, younger women, like everything you can possibly imagine. I was like, oh, that's what real bodies look like. Like, you have cellulite too, and you have stretch marks too. Like, I just didn't even know. And so it really started this whole journey of me working kinder to myself and to my body. And then I realized that I could actually help people do that too, because every single person that came into that fitting room had something negative to say about themselves in the mirror. So flash forward 14 years, and I've worked on every side of the intimate apparel business. So as a retail salesperson, for a mom and pop shop, then for a large department store here in the States, Saks Fifth Avenue, and then for a luxury retail brand in intimate apparel, La Perla, which is an Italian company, and got all the different sides of like different levels of business, but then also went from doing sales to being a store manager to being a marketing manager and a marketing director. And then finally in 2014, I started my own lingerie content marketing company called Hooray Media. Mm-hmm. And that was really because I did not like the way people were talking to people about their bodies and their undergarments. And it was very popular to say, something's wrong with you and your body, or you're not sexy enough, and we have this solution that's going to make you look slimmer or look sexier or whatever. And I don't feel that way. I feel like you are already amazing, and here's something to support you in that truth and knowingness about who you are. And so I started doing behind the scenes social media, blog posts, strategy and content, a lot of consulting with brands that were just emerging. And it was lovely, and I was making a pretty decent income. And I was not very happy. I think I really like to be of service in a public way. And so I started partnering with brands publicly, and now most of my income is from creating content in partnership with them on my site, Hooray Kimmay, where I have free content for consumers on everything from how to wash your bras, how to tell if your bra fits, how to shop for everyday bras, what are mastectomy bras, like all of that stuff, to, you know, even like transgender needs for undergarments and lingerie. And then I also partner with brands publicly in the media. So I do television and here in the States, in Canada, I teach in my industry at expos in Paris and New York, and host panels on inclusiveness and intimate apparel and so forth and so on. It's hard to describe all the things that I do, but that's the gist.
I think you've done a really, really great job. And as I'm listening to you, Kimmay, there's so much, you know, it's such a varied journey, but you really understood your purpose, and you got to know your purpose and your why right back, you know, when you were 19, back in that first role. So how did it feel when you discovered that?
That's a great point. And if anyone has read anything by Simon Sinek and his, you know, Find Your Why, or the, you know, kind of his new book is How to Find It, but his first one was like The Power of It. I went to see him at a fireside chat kind of a thing. And I remember he said that you really find your why like in your late teens. Mm-hmm. And I thought that can't be true. And he said, if you didn't find it, then you just haven't like really uncovered it yet. But most people know, you know, in your teens. But I'm going to be completely honest. I did not know that was my why. That was just a college job. That was just, you know, me being able to live in New York City. I was financially independent at 18 years old. And I definitely felt a strong calling and felt very purposeful when I was supporting people with undergarments, especially because I had this understanding about their use as a tool to get to know and love your body, to support it, especially because it's right over the heart. If there's any confusion or shame or discomfort here, like it's all blocked off. So I could really see the difference it was making for people. But Barbara, I still thought I was going to be a Broadway star. Like I didn't know that was it. And so I kind of had to continue to listen to whispers and voices and go against my own knowing and really trust this deeper divine knowing. That's where I get my, you know, why from. And it's funny because I just said to my husband the other day, I said, I really feel like I'm living my dreams come true. And he was like, awesome. And then I said, wait a minute, that's not actually true. I said, my dreams were to be a Broadway actress and to have a giant house that, you know, had like an indoor gym and had a separate house for my parents. But I really feel like I am living my purpose. I mean, could never have dreamed up what I'm doing. This is a random weird thing to me. But I really feel like when I wake up in the morning that I was literally designed and born to do what I am doing here on this earth. And that feels really good, like super, super good. Better than dreams come true, I think.
But isn't it funny how you're talking about your dream as in it was to be a Broadway star, but if you look at the breadcrumbs, you know, you were going to college, but it was because of that you actually ended up in that first role. But, you know, so it all has purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I truthfully believe everything happens for a reason. Like that's such a cliche thing to say, but like I actually really, really believe that. And I was really pushed into going where I went to school in a weird way. Like when I look back now, I'm like, that was so bizarre, but so perfect that like I was a really high achieving high schooler. I was like a super overachiever. But when it came to applying for colleges, I like could not figure out. I don't know why, I just like couldn't apply. It's like, I think I applied to 3 colleges total and I wanted to go for school of acting. I think I auditioned at 2 and I don't know what I was thinking. And thankfully plans were happening on my behalf because I actually didn't get into any of them. And as a high achieving high schooler, I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I gonna do? And this is before like gap years were cool. Like this is myself. This was many years ago. And so I thought, okay, what am I going to do with this time? And then lo and behold, like last minute, one of the schools called up and said, hey, you know, you were on our wait list and now we'd love for you to attend. And it happened to be the only one I applied to that was in Manhattan. And being in Manhattan for me personally was absolutely where I needed to be for a lot of other dominoes to fall into place. So I really trust that that happened for like the highest good of everybody involved. And for sure, going to school for theater taught me many, 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 many things that I put to use today. One is, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast. Right. One is like I have a high bullshit meter. Like I can really tell when someone means what they say or not. The other is, you know, I feel really suited to go on television and talk about undergarments in a really easy breezy way. And not everybody can do that. And that's something that's just like easy, super, super easy and exciting for me. So I see many benefits of it for sure. And I met my husband in New York City, so it all worked out.
So you're on this journey to living your purpose. It might not have been your dream, but it's certainly your purpose. At what point then did you realize that, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing? When did that feeling fall into place?
I don't think that there was like a moment. I think it was like a uncovering of that deeper knowing, little by little by little. And I think the more I listened to my intuition and truthfully like prayed about it, like, what do you want me to do next? What should I do next? The more I think I was just sort of stepping in alignment with that purpose. Like I
Can you hear me?
You've frozen. Oh, there you are.
You've come back. I was just about to chat to you. We'll edit that out. That's fine.
Did you hear anything I said, or did I freeze?
I can hear you. Yeah. Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Right.
Okay,
so, what was the question? When did you actually find? When did you start to see that purpose actually come to fruition? When did you feel it?
Are you repeating the question, or is this a new question? Did you hear my answer to the last?
No, I didn't hear the answer.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, you froze.
Okay. Great. So I don't think there was like one moment. I think that it was like a gradual uncovering of that purpose. And I had this, idea that our purpose is already sort of planned out for us, and it's sort of up to us if we want to walk in step with that or not. And the more I prayed for guidance, the more I leaned into my intuition, the more like spiritual I got and surrendered to like the path that was already there instead of like trying to bulldoze ahead with my own knowing, the more I was just in step with that purpose, and it just became more obvious and obvious and obvious. I really resisted making intimate apparel my avenue into like the purpose I had in life. I really did, even though it kept pulling me back. I just thought I knew better, and now I could have just never known myself that it would end up being such a perfect avenue for me to do the kind of loving work that I want to do in the world.
Yeah, it really is a perfect fit. And we've spoken about resistance before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Because in my experience, in my personal experience, and certainly in the people that I've worked with and the people that are close to me, when we resist, we end up back where we started anyway. And it's just what I call, it's just taking the scenic route. Yeah, all you're doing is biding time.
Yeah, and I think, whether you believe in fate or like a predestined purpose or not, I do think that we all have this sort of path, a path here on this planet and a purpose. And I feel like the more you resist it, the louder it's just going to get. It's just going to be like, no, come on back, come over here. So mine was just screaming at me super duper loud, and things just kept pointing for me to do the things that I wanted to do. And finally I just jumped. I just was like, okay, fine, let's just try this out and see. And here I am.
And here you are. Now, one of the things that I love about you, and obviously we've been connected for quite a long time now.
Years now, I think.
It's quite a while. So, on Facebook. And I love reading your posts because you're so sure of your message and the good that you do. So obviously all my message is all about leadership. At what point, and maybe you've not got there yet, but I think you have, at what point did you actually think, I'm stepping up to being a leader in my field? Did you?
Yeah, well, I had a decision to make when I started my business, and I could, and I just had this conversation with someone yesterday, and this is really different for each person. So for me personally, when I started my business, I really decided to start a business, to be a business owner instead of a freelancer. And that mattered to me for a couple of reasons. One, it made me feel really official, but two, it was sort of this way of stepping up into what I was doing in a more official way.
Mm-hmm.
And really admitting that I wanted to be the leader of my own company. But also, I look at leadership often as setting an example.
Absolutely.
And one of the biggest steps for me as a leader in my industry happened to be when I started writing publicly on my blog, and then started having pictures taken of me in like my bathing suit and then my lingerie and my undergarments. And I just gave this advice to a big group of people at the Curve New York Lingerie Expo, and they asked, like, hey, if I'm going to be a person that shows up in our industry, is it okay for me to have pictures of me in my underwear everywhere? Like, are people going to take me seriously? And I said, listen, I want to make it super clear that, like, no one needs to be in their underwear to, like, prove they love their body or that they know about undergarments or whatever. But for me personally, I was talking to talk so much about using undergarments to love your body and supporting yourself with bras that fit well and blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't really walking the walk for others to see. And so I decided, I had like a real sit down talk about this with myself, with my husband, even like with I actually didn't include my family, but I thought about what they would think. My family is actually very conservative. My dad is a pastor. My mom is the church secretary. Like, this is a big deal. And I decided it meant me stepping up as an example of like, hey, I'm willing to do this. I take airbrush free, no photoshopped images of my human body. And while I may be a US size 4 and, you know, have like a lot of thin privilege and I'm white passing and all sorts of privileged things about my body, this is the one I have. And I'm happy to share it and show people.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge, huge step in my own leadership. Then I think the next part of leadership began when I started getting assistants on board with my business. That felt like a new step in leadership. And then within my industry, I don't think I felt like a leader within my industry until like the past year or so. And especially this season, like this year when I went to the Lingerie Expo, because I taught at the one in Paris, I taught at the one here in New York, I felt like, yeah, I have some experience here that's of value to other people and some authority, and I'm so happy and proud to use it and be a leader within us and to take people with me and just make waves and make changes within our business. So I kind of had that mentality years ago. Actually, I can't remember if you were in Mexico with me. No, okay. But I had a big vision of me having a very big company and leading people, and I felt very unprepared to do it. So I think I always knew that was coming. I didn't feel like I stepped into that, though, until maybe in the past year or two. And I've had my business for 5 years. So it started off little and kind of grew.
Yeah.
My leadership kind of expanded.
So is that the plan still, to have a much larger company, or has the dream changed?
Again, I don't think that was my personal dream. I think I wanted to sit in my home office and in my tiny apartment in New York City and have a virtual assistant and somehow, I don't know, afford to make a ton of money to have a beautiful house. But if I'm being honest about my purpose in the world, I do think it is to have a much larger company than I have now. And that scares the poop out of me because I've never led, a company of that, tons of people. And I've never, had tons and tons of clients and people and stuff like that. I'm used to working one-on-one with people. And so it would be quite the scenic route if I just didn't admit that. And I know I'm going to wind up there anyway.
Yeah.
So now I'm just sort of taking a more direct route to get there and letting it unfold in a timely manner. But we're talking like 20 years from now. We're not talking about in 2 years from now. So I think the growth will be gradual.
Yeah, and in that time, that gradual growth, you'll learn. You'll learn how to step into that role. But let's play with it a little bit. Let's fast forward 20 years just for just to see.
Fun.
Week preview into what it's going to be like. what does Kimmay as a CEO look like?
Great question. I'm blushing a little because these are all things that I've like seen in visions, and I do a lot of guided visualization and meditations in order for me to really again align with that purpose. And so saying these out loud sounds a little corny, but I fully admit that I hold these true, and like I'm not expecting things to unfold and look exactly like what I've seen, and I don't think that I'm prophetic, but I do think that these are visions that I'm holding dear as like a direction to go in. So I'm gonna give a little bit of an abstract thing really quickly. So I kind of look at my business as a boat or a ship, and I think when you're choosing a course in the water, which is very flowy, you can choose a direction, but you may not take an exact path to get there. You might flow around a little bit, and so that's what I mean. Like I feel like these visions are sort of a direction that I'm going to set my compass on, and then how I get there and how it kind of unfolds in real time, we'll see. But I really see myself leading. So I really see like my company being a beacon of light, a sun, and that the people that are working for me and are doing whatever we're doing, which I'm going to be really honest, the what is always way less clear than the why. And when I'm looking ahead, because how we grow and what I end up doing, you tell me. But each person that works for me is sort of like a sunbeam off of that business. And each person that they're working with, or each initiative, or each campaign, or each client, or whatever, gets kind of lit up by this. And I saw this global impact of like this light that we are bringing to the world. And that felt really, really good. And when I asked in this vision that I had like this giant cruise ship that I had where I had 1,500 people working for me, and 2,000 people on board as guests, and I was just like, oh, like this is scary. Like I don't know how to do this. I actually asked, why does it have to be so big? Why can't it just be me one-on-one with someone in a rowboat? And the answer I got back was to make big waves. So I really feel this little ripples that I'm starting now that are kind of growing as I grow and my company grows. And so I see us in 2 floors in a high rise in a big city, probably New York, because I love New York City so much. And with lots of people doing lots of really awesome things within our company and having this global positive impact. And me really showing up as the leader that's like publicly willing, and not every CEO is this person, but this would be me, like really publicly willing to set the example and do the big talks and do the TV stuff and write the books and do whatever. And I think there was a part of me in the past that thought, well, that's just vain. That's just that person being really vain. Mm-hmm. And now I realize there's like a big power and responsibility and option. Not everybody has to do this. Option for people to step up in leadership in that way. And it's sort of guided me to let go of my own nervousness about people thinking that I look vain, or I just want attention, or I just want to be on TV, and go, no. Not everybody is suited to do this. I'm really suited to do this, and I'm happy to grow and step outside my own comfort zone and step up in bigger ways in public. And so that's how I see myself.
Sounds fantastic. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it all.
I'm nervous. Like I'm just describing now. Like, oh boy.
It sounds good. I can sense that, but no, it's good. It's often good just to describe it out loud and just to put your stake in the sand.
You're totally right. And I think the more I profess those things, the less I worry about it not coming true, because it's all just, again, it's just a compass focus point. That's it. So we'll see how it unfolds.
Fab. Right, we're going to change tack a little bit now, Kimmay, and we're going to have a bit of a quick fire round.
Okay.
So, what do you like to do in your spare time? What do you do to relax?
I sing. I went to school for musical theater, so I sing in my kitchen. I dance with my cat in the kitchen. I sing in a choir. I'm on the choir's board. I have a choir concert this Saturday. We're singing in Spanish, which is really important to me, my heritage, and I love to sing.
Oh, I like singing. I'm not very good at it. I have been in the choir, and I'd have loved to go to musical theatre college. Oh, that'd have been my dream. It'd been fab. So singing in your spare time. Which time of day do you switch on most? Are you a morning person, evening person?
I would say my favorite time to work is between 10 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually like to get up early, but I don't think it's early to other people. I like to get up at 8 a.m. and have like a full 2 hours to like have my coffee, get ready, dance with the cat, like meditate, do whatever I need to do, and then really start my day. So when people are like, hey, can we have an 8 a.m. meeting? I'm like, not even happening.
Not happening.
So, but I think I'm like a middle of the day kind of person.
Mm-hmm. It's fab. At least you know. So what about your boundaries then? Do you switch off at 6 o'clock and that's it, or do you work in the evening?
That's a great question. So when I first started, I was working out of my apartment, and I was working on I had a tiny 450 square foot apartment, and I was working off the couch, and I would wake up at 8 a.m. and work immediately. And then I would work all day. I wouldn't even change into my pajamas, and I would work until like 10 o'clock at night when I would go to sleep. And it was fueled by a couple of things. One, I was just starting and just learning. And right whenever I left my job that I had, a week later, my husband was let go from his job. And then 2 weeks later, I lost like my only big client. So part of it was me just hustling to keep my head above water. Another part of it was that I had never owned a business before or knew anything that I was doing. And so I was just learning while I was working. So it was kind of like going to school full-time-ish and having a full-time job-ish. And then the other part of it was that I had this deep fear that I was not enough and I wasn't doing enough. And so I just worked. And to kind of prove to myself, look how much I'm doing, look how valuable I am, look how hard I'm working. And so I had to really let go of that for me to have my sanity, to be really frank. But also a big part of me stepping into leadership was also, again, like really organizing myself as in a more formal way. And so I got an office space, which here I'm in a conference room in my office space now, but I have like my own glass office with a door that closes and like everything's in there. You'd love it. It's great. There's like bras and candles and sage and all sorts of things in it. And it's only 6 blocks from my apartment, but oh my gosh, those 6 blocks make a world of difference because I can close my computer and go home at 6 o'clock and like just hang out with my husband and just be me. And I think I was really defining myself by my business for a long time. Mm-hmm. And now I realize it's just one thing I do and I do it well and I love doing it. And it's definitely a huge part of me, but it's not who I am. And like, who am I outside of this business that I'm running? That was really, really important for me. So yeah, so most days I completely step away from home. I'm in work mode from 10 to 6 and then I go home. Of course, there are days when at night I bring home the computer because something has to get done, or maybe a Saturday. I love to write on Saturdays, like more deeper blog posts or kind of more what I call inside things about like what's going on inside of us. Mm-hmm. I love to write those on like Saturday morning. So I mix it up a little bit, but I definitely have set boundaries. Yeah.
And I completely agree with you. I do the same. But what I'm just going to pick up on something that you said, Kimmay, which was you went through a stage of not feeling enough, and so you got busy. Yeah. And I see this so often with people that I work with, that often we confuse busyness with productivity and value. So so how did you make that shift? Was it as simple as boundaries and a routine, or was there some kind of mindset shift that you made?
No, okay. One of the things that I kept hearing whenever I started a business was like, you will go on such a personal journey when you start your business. And I was like, sure, whatever. And they were right. And so I realized, about a year and a half into owning my business that I needed some personal support. And so I actually hired a business coach, and she was, giving advice on strategy and sales and things like that, like I truthfully probably needed to do that learning, but I was not getting personal support. And so I hired a coach who definitely deals with business stuff, but like we talked about everything else. We talked about me and how, these old stories I was running into, or these fears that were coming up that I wasn't acknowledging, or how being a business owner was affecting my relationship with my husband and my view of myself and how I was growing, how uncomfortable growth was. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that and I worked with her for years, like for a long time. And this gradual uncovering and going deep and really being honest and compassionately forgiving myself for misunderstandings I was having and bringing up the truth and just being brave enough to ask myself questions like, why do I feel like I'm not enough? Is that what's really going on there? What's happening here? That took time. And I think working with someone who was lovingly guiding me through that process made it phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it was not just like, oh, I just have to set boundaries. It was definitely more of a mindset shift and lots of reading and coaching and all sorts of lovely things. And definitely something I still deal with, not something that's just gone away, but I definitely have more tools in place now to deal with that and can talk about it in a way now where I'm like not ashamed of it, you know?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And the fact that you were so self-aware and in tune and you know, with your own needs back then, that you were able to hire a coach, when so many people, certainly when their business is in the infancy, don't do that. You know, they don't invest. So, you know, that's a big tick, you know, that you actually did that. So the question that you were asking yourself was, why am I not enough? Yeah, was that the only thing that was holding you back then in terms of the limiting belief?
Yeah, no. I had a whole book filled with fears and all sorts of things. And, you know, I think I do coach people now. I have a very small coaching practice because I do so many other things in my industry and whatever. But when I coach people now, I usually tell them that typically our fears come down to, or stories that we're telling ourselves, misunderstandings that we're having in the world about ourselves. I think they come down to three main fears. And one is that I'm not enough. One is that I am not loved. And the other is like a fear of failure, which is typically it's a very gray area and they kind of blend into each other. Then there's this fourth one that like, it's just a very human fear, which is the fear of dying in our own mortality. That's kind of a normal fear that we all have, right? Not that the rest aren't normal, but they're sort of feeding us lies about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so even though they all came back down to those three main fears for me, they were showing up in like 45 different ways on a regular basis. And so it could look like the typical imposter syndrome of like, I don't really know what I'm doing, everyone's gonna find out, or I'm the wrong person for this, or I don't know what I'm doing and I'm not gonna be able to make enough money, or no one actually wants me to be talking about this, or blah, 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 blah. Like lots of, and again, the whole vain thing, like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think of me? Which that just comes down to not being, I feel like I'm not loved. So yeah, I think on a regular basis, those three stories and fears showed up in many different ways. And I just started becoming more aware of, oh, it's taking on this form today. Let me lovingly talk to that. Or, oh, it's popping up in this way today. Mm-hmm. Let me talk to myself about that one today. So no, it was not just that. At all.
Again, it's so lovely to hear that you were able to observe it and look at yourself from that different vantage point, which is it's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, but important, difficult but important, or maybe what my coach, you know, would say is uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Actually, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's a quote by Barbara Stanny, and she says that most things are not difficult, they're uncomfortable. Yes. And so the discomfort is worth pushing through or wading through or floating through, whatever way you want to do it. It was worth it. It's still worth it on a regular basis now.
Completely agree. Okay, so was that quote from one of your recommended books, Kimmay?
It was.
What's your recommended books for everybody today?
I have two. One is a little bit more practical, but surprisingly very deep in like the inside stuff. And then the other is very more inside stuff, but also has some practical things. Mm-hmm. So the first is by Barbara Stanny, and it's called Overcoming Under-Earning, which I picked up as a practical guide because I realized that I had some money blocks and I really wanted to bring in money as fuel for my business and to really fuel all the things that phenomenal things I was doing in the world. And it ends up being a self-worth book. No spoiler here, but it ends up really being like you looking at yourself and your value and how you're seeing yourself and all these old stories that are coming up. And I felt like she had a very practical but gentle way to guide people through that. And it's a little bit of a workbook, so it's kind of great. And she encourages you to go through it with other people. And so I did, and me and those people now meet on a weekly basis to discuss things. Like, we're not even reading the book anymore, to discuss things around money and being a business owner. Most likely it's money, and we're very transparent with each other about our money fears and money things and asking for money and what we're charging this person and the resistance that we have coming up when we raise our rates and all sorts of stuff. So very, very cool book. And then the other is called The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer. I won't spoil this in case you don't know who he is. I did not know who he is in the business world. And so I just read the book, and by the end I was kind of like, wow, I had no idea about this guy. But basically he's like a super hippie meditating guy and decides to do this experiment of just saying yes, and really kind of what I was doing of just like finding that purpose and path and walking in alignment with it, even when you're like, this makes no sense, I don't want to do this at all. Fine, but I'm feeling this pull, it's coming up, I guess I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
And his outlook on life and how if you're really in the flow and surrendering to like what's there for you can really like, it's going to be better than you ever expected kind of a thing. Even the uncomfortable and stuff, the discomfort, his perspective. I actually did the audiobook of that one. He has a very lovely voice, so that was really
cool. Right, okay, that's the top tip there then, to get the audio. Brilliant, fantastic recommendations. I'm going to put those links underneath this video for everybody to go and check them out. But thanks so much, Kimmay. I've really loved chatting to you. I know we went quite deep at times there, but yeah, it's good. It's all good. But thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much. I'd love to invite people to come on over to my website, which is hurraykimmay.com, and I spell hurray, HURRAY.com, and you'll see there's a lot of great resources that are way beyond bras. I like to say that bras are just my favorite tool to help people say hooray inside, outside, and underneath. But there are so many awesome topics over there, from how to compassionately forgive yourself to how to be your body's best friend. And they just happen to have a lot of awesome resources for undergarments as well.
Yeah. And I'll put all your links underneath this video as well. But I would definitely recommend you go and check Kimmay's sites out, because yeah, I just follow you on Facebook, and yeah, and I get a bit of a boost every day. So when
the parade every day. That's what I like to say.
Exactly. Right, I will let you get off because I know that you've got lots to do. But thanks so much for hanging out with us.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
See you later.
Bye.